Okay, so Joe. Yeah, so we have a question for you. If you can answer correctly, Candace is going to hook you up with a Whitman sampler this morning. Okay, remember, we're combining our themes today, farming and love, okay? So, which online dating site features a jingle ensuring you that you don't have to be lonely? FarmersOnly.com. That, my friends, is the correct answer and the score. Congratulations. So when's the big day, by the way?
We don't know yet.
Okay, who's next, Shelley?
The next victim.
Oh, next victim, she says. I love this.
Gavin.
Oh, keeping with the theme today. I love it. Gavin, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
Okay, you got this. Which of the following songs successfully combines our themes of love and farm? You ready? A, She Thinks My Tractor's Sexy. B, Country Boys and Girls Getting Down on the Farm by Tim McGraw. C, The Farmer's Daughter. Or D, all of the above. All of the above. Score! And Whitman sampler for Gavin Roberts. Davis County Farm Bureau. Love it. All right, Shelley, one more. Oh, we have to, oh, no.
Yeah, one more.
You put a 2-pack then, awesome. You'll be feeding your family.
I just don't know who I should pick. Mr. Terrell.
Good morning.
Morning. Okay, you got this. Julia Roberts stars as a divorced woman looking for love. She travels around the world to find herself in this 3-word movie. A, Eat, Pray, Love. B, Drop Dead Fred. Or C, The Amityville Horror.
I guess I'll go with A.
Hey, indeed! Congratulations! All right, at this time it is time for our featured speaker. So thrilled to have him with us. And to introduce him to you this morning, our brand new board chair on the stage for the first time this morning in that seat, Adam Hancock.
Thank you, Chad. What an awesome crowd we have here this morning. Thank you for coming out. I wish I could say it's because it's my first round as chair, but I know that's not the case. You're here for other reasons, for good breakfast and free coffee. First, I'd like to say thanks to our sponsors, Mike Haney and Eddie Melton. Thank you. We appreciate all you do for our community. I'm extremely excited and honored to introduce our guest speaker this morning. In a brief few comments, you'll realize that this guy's brilliant. I also feel somewhat of a bond with him, with the gray hair, early in our 30s. So, yeah, it works, serves us well. Ryan grew up on his family's farm in Scott County, coming from a family that has lived in central Kentucky for over 200 years. Ryan completed 3 undergraduate majors and 2 graduate degrees in just 4 years at the University of Kentucky, graduating in 2006. In 2008, Harvard University awarded Ryan a full scholarship with the Zuckerman Fellows Program, which enabled him to continue his studies at the Harvard Graduate School of Education, the Kennedy School of Government, and Harvard Law School. In 2009, he graduated from Harvard with a master's degree in higher education before moving back to Kentucky to finish his last year of law school. Ryan was elected to the Kentucky General Assembly in 2010, representing Scott, Owen, and Fayette counties. Ryan served as vice chairman of the House Judiciary Committee and served on the Agricultural and Small Business Committee, the Tobacco Master Settlement Oversight Committee, and the Banking and Insurance Committee. In 2015, Ryan was elected Kentucky's Commissioner of Agriculture. At 32, Commissioner Quarles is currently the youngest statewide elected official in the United States. Please give a big Rooster booster round of applause to Commissioner Quarles.
Thank you, Adam. You forgot to mention how much student loan debt I have as well. But good morning, and Chad, did you know that there are more members on FarmersOnly.com than there actually are farmers? So you know people love us. But I'm glad to be back in Owensboro. This is my 3rd trip here in the past month. Judge Mattingly has threatened to throw a tax on me if I keep coming back and don't buy a house or residence here. But it is always a pleasure to be back in Western Kentucky. And as a former legislator, She is exactly correct. Make sure you take time to go to Frankfort and talk about what Western Kentucky needs, because us, you flatlanders down here, sometimes don't get the attention you deserve up in Frankfort. And so make sure you take the time to make the phone calls and advocate for the issues you care deeply about right here in Davis County. You know, I got in a little bit early last night, and I got to finally attend one of the most storied and most fun restaurants here in Owensboro, and that was the Miller House. And let me tell you something, the sinuses are cleared up. So I enjoyed it, and I hope to be back so I can take a taste of every single one over the next couple years. I am so happy to serve and honored to be serving as the next Commissioner of Agriculture. I've been in office for just 1 month. It's been a tough month. In the past 4 weeks, we've had to deal with an avian influenza outbreak just across the river. We've had to institute biosecurity protocols, particularly in this part of the state, to help contain the spread of a high pathogen and high mortality bird flu epidemic. With the bluegrass stockyards in Lexington burnt to the ground on Saturday, I toured the site, and 8 acres of livestock facilities literally has melted in downtown Lexington. We've had to deal with that. And on top of that, the governor gave us a 9% cut. And so welcome to state government. I'm glad to be serving as the next commissioner, and we'll get off to a good start. But I just want to say thank you for helping elect me as one of the 7 constitutional officers. I've been through 6 races in 5 years, and I'm glad to have a little bit of a break. Drove 65,000 miles, and for those of you who know Kentucky well, most of those miles are not straight. I picked up 20 pounds on a Kentucky Proud Belly, and now I'm ready to get to work. So why are we here? Why would you dedicate a monthly meeting just for agriculture? What does it have to do with the economy? And for an ag commissioner who's used to coming down here and speaking in front of agriculture crowds, this is a rare opportunity to help give you some context about the state of agriculture here in the Commonwealth of Kentucky and how it plays in to the greater global economy that Mark Haney was talking about. And Mark and Eddie, they do a tremendous job of advocating not just for farmers, not just for agribusinesses, but for rural Kentucky in Frankfort and Washington, D.C. And thank you for your leadership, and look forward to working with you. And for an organization that's 100 years old, you guys are looking pretty good. So, so how many of you all enjoyed the breakfast you just ate? Okay, that's easy. That's agriculture. The dinner you had last night. How about the clothes you're wearing right now? We'll take it a step further. The medicine you may take, the car that you drive, or even the tables and chairs you're sitting in today are tied in with agriculture in one way or another. In the United States, 1 in 5 jobs is directly related to agriculture. And it's important to put this in context, especially here in Owensboro. You don't have to look very far to see the fingerprints of agriculture, biotechnology, and agribusinesses, with businesses such as, and products such as Kentucky Tavern, the biodiesel plant, Owensboro Grain, which is a huge international player, and also the miracle of genetic modification coming from an unlikely source, a tobacco plant, to address the Ebola vaccine with the ZMapp outbreak. You have a lot to celebrate right here in Owensboro, and it kind of puts some tangible marks on what we're about to talk about. So, to help frame agriculture to a group of chamber members, the message is clear. Agriculture is economic development. And as the new Ag Commissioner, the way I view helping our farmers, the way I view helping our agribusinesses, or perhaps attracting business to the state on the agriculture side, is about jobs, it's about economic development, it's about FDI, foreign direct investment, and it's about elevating a part of the economy that has always been strong in Kentucky, particularly at the local level, and help making the best better. The story of Kentucky agriculture is not unique to many Kentuckians. Raise your hand if you have a direct farm connection here in Kentucky, whether you grew up on one, your grandparents did, your parents did, or you did. That's a lot of us. That's a lot of us. That's very, very common across Kentucky. My story is not any different. My family moved here over 200 years ago, a land grant family, after serving in the Revolutionary War. And for the wild west of Kentucky, we decided to invest in the common clay, and we've been playing in the dirt ever since. I grew up on the farm, grew up in 4-H, wore the blue corduroy jacket of our young FFA members here today, grew up in the Farm Bureau family, and I like to tell people that one of the first jobs I had on our farm growing up was shoveling cow manure, which prepared me well for politics in Frankfort. And there's always been a connection with farming and politics, and if you watch the Iowa caucuses this week, it seems like everyone running for president suddenly cares about Iowa corn farmers. And in fact, Donald Trump himself said he's going to buy a farm. And so there's a lot of interest as we move forward in that race. Agriculture is about innovation, and Kentucky has always been a leader. A lot of practices and research that Mark Haney talked about, research that in the agriculture world returns $35 for every $1 that's invested. We are fortunate in this state to have a strong land-grant university program, a strong cooperative extension network across the state. We're one of only 5 states that has a cooperative extension office in every single county. And UK and KSU continue to impress us, as well as on-farm experimentation, to prove that Kentucky is an international leader when it comes to increased and better conservation practices. No-till planting, no-till corn, meaning you don't have to go out into the field and actually plow the ground every year. You can plant directly over the crop residue from the year before. You save inputs, you save time, you save diesel, you protect the soil. That was invented right here in Kentucky, and that's the farming practices that being used and replicated all across the world today. We're also been a leader with connecting Kentucky's past with its future through agriculture. And I'll give you an example of this. Who here have read anything about industrial hemp lately? It is an amazing crop that connects our history, a crop that my family grew during World War II, but also has potential. And if you, again, go back to my original theory that you need to connect farming to economic development, it's about creating jobs. And if and when this crop becomes a legal crop to grow, which I believe it will, we want to make sure that Kentucky is not left out. Too many times we are that hole in the donut compared to our surrounding states. And if you want to be a leader and be innovative, you've got to have the critical mass in place. You've got to have the business environment available to help support a growing industry. And I think we're going to do that with industrial hemp. There are other crops coming out that are what I would consider alternative crops. I know we went to the the Miller House last night. Only 40% of the grain used for bourbon in Kentucky comes from Kentucky farmers. And we can do a little bit better job than that. So we're going to encourage our distillers to buy more Kentucky grain, and our farmers can grow it, whether it's a specialty crop, whether it's GMO, non-GMO. We want to play a more proactive role in putting more Kentucky ingredients into markets that are already thriving and growing. And with 95% of the bourbon consumed coming from Kentucky in the world, that is a market that we can continue to make progress in. Craft beer. Craft beer, it continues to be a growing part of Kentucky's economy, but yet there are very few hops grown in Kentucky, or barley. And so we want to have a discussion that connects farmers with emerging markets. Again, economic development. We're also going to look at the role of kenaf. Kenaf is a fibrous plant that's similar to industrial hemp, but with no legal issues. It's already being used in the Toyota plant in my hometown of Georgetown in dashboards. It's also being used on Ford products out of Louisville, but yet all the kenaf that's used is sourced out of Malaysia and Indonesia. Why not have Kentucky farmers grow that, process it here, and do what we like to call value-added processing? Whenever you can take a raw product out of the field and process it into either an intermediate or final product, not only does it create jobs, it creates businesses, but it also keeps that money local and it churns around locally. And so those are the types of opportunities we're going to continue to track down as your next ag commissioner. Mark Haney was correct. The story of ag is about efficiencies. My dad was born in 1950. He's 65 years old this year. And if you look at how agriculture has increased in the past 65 years, here's a statistic, and try to apply it to your own business. Our productivity has gone up 170% with 26% less land, less inputs being used. If you look at the amount of water being used, it's less. If you look at the amount of chemicals, pesticides, fertilizers, the things you need to grow a successful crop, it has all been reduced. So we're doing more with less every day. In Kentucky, we have over 85,000 farms. The average size is 164 acres, which compared to the national average of over 420, we're a small farm state. And for those of you who cannot visualize what an acre is, think of it as the size of a football field. And so Kentucky is unique because we are literally a patchwork quilt. And whenever you fly over our state, you'll see that, a patchwork quilt of small family farms with tremendous diversity. And it's important that we realize that farmers are business owners. They pay taxes just like you do. And they need to have the support, and we need to remove the misperceptions about agriculture, which continues to be an issue among the industry. So I thought I'd give you a few facts, a few interesting facts about Kentucky agriculture. Who here has ever eaten a biscuit from McDonald's? Just about everybody. That wheat came from Kentucky, and it was processed down in Christian County at Seymour Milling. Who here likes to have a steak or a cheeseburger? Kentucky is a leading beef-producing state. In fact, we have more beef cattle than any other state east of the Mississippi. And so when we lost the stockyards on Saturday, it was personal for us, but we'll continue to get back up on our feet. The average Kentuckian and average American eats 17.9 pounds of bacon every year. And I think I add to that average every day. We have great pork producers, including some right here in Davis County. The average milk cow produces over 1,850 gallons. And now to put that in perspective, the average backyard above ground pool could be filled with just 2 cows worth of milk each year. And so we continue to have efficiencies that impress the world. Guess what our number one livestock is? I come from horse country. It's not horses. It's not cattle. It's chickens. That's right. And so that continues to be an area of tremendous growth in Kentucky. Speaking of horses, 106 of the 140 Derby winners were bred in Kentucky. And that's an area of economic impact that continues to play a tremendous role. We need to protect that signature industry. We have over $26 billion of horse-related assets in Kentucky, and we grow enough hay and sell enough hay on our farm to know that that's part of the agriculture story and one that we're going to continue to support. Kentucky Proud. Kentucky Proud has been the most successful marketing program in Kentucky's history. We have over 5,000 vendors across the state selling Kentucky Proud. And in 2014, over $500 million worth of Kentucky Proud products were sold right here in Kentucky. We have 159 farmers markets. We have 71 farm wineries with 600 acres of grapes every year. And we have over 8,000 beekeepers across the state. And the most popular website isn't just farmersonly.com. It's also the KDA website at kda.org. So we'll continue the story about Kentucky agriculture. My priorities over the next 4 years are to continue the successful marketing programs such as Kentucky Proud, because when Kentuckians buy something with this stamp on it, they know that they're supporting a local farmer, they're supporting a local agribusinesses, and they're reinvesting in the economy. Agriculture education continues to be a challenge because only 2% of the population actively farms, and so we're constantly having to remind folks about what we do as an industry. And I'm so glad to see young leaders such as our FFA members here today who have a future in agriculture, an agriculture economy that is more so based off technology than production as ever have before. GPS units. How many of you all have a GPS unit in your car or use it? It was the agriculture industry which laid the groundwork for GPS to be used back in the early 90s. And if you get a chance to visit a local farm here in Davis County, you'll be thrilled and excited to see how precise agriculture can be and how efficient our farms continue to be. We're also going to have a focused attention on international trade. We have a new trade agreement, which is being considered by Congress right now, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. There's a lot of growth in international trade. That trade deal encompasses 40% of the entire world's GDP. And although you can debate the good things and the bad things about that trade program, agriculture tends to benefit from that, because right now in our Asian countries have 500 million people who consider themselves middle class. In the next 25 years, that number will grow from 500 million to 2.7 billion people. A lot of consumers, and for every additional $1 billion that agriculture exports, creates 6,500 jobs here in Kentucky. So there is a direct relationship with international trade. It's also important to realize the challenges facing agriculture. The average age of a farmer in Kentucky is over 60 years old. We have what you would consider a pipeline issue in your business. It's important that we inspire the next generation of agricultural leaders, whether they come from 4-H, they come from FFA, or our great agricultural programs in higher education across the state. And we help support them to get excited in an industry that continues to grow every year. We have misperceptions about agriculture. It's important that we tell the positive side about what we're doing in this state and make sure that we get out and define who we are before anti-agriculture groups do it for us. And I know that there was an issue here in the Owensboro area a couple years ago which kind of defines how toxic that issue can be. So it's important that we tell the positive side of agriculture. Income always is an issue with farmers. And if you're like me and played the Kentucky lottery and did not win, you got to continue to look for ways to support on-farm income. Unfortunately, federal government overreach continues to be perhaps one of the biggest threats to production agriculture. And as Mark Haney talked about, water quality, access to water, nutrient management, and also water quality will be the dominant issue in agriculture over the next 10 years. It's important that we play a proactive role to help better manage a resource which is finite and one that we have to share with everyone else. And only in Washington, D.C. can farming practices be defined in 270 pages. And it's important that we continue to be proactive when it comes to fighting and pushing back against unneeded and unwanted federal government overreach.